Hi everyone. As Leanne said, my name is Anita. I'm a principal consultant with What's Next, and today I have the pleasure to talk to you about some recent HR trends and people performance best practice. So What's Next is a HR consulting business. We provide HR support to small, medium businesses, mostly fast-growing businesses. Across Australia, we have offices here in Brisbane, Gold Coast, and also New York. So we also get to experience some of the trends coming from overseas. We touch on everything that has to do with the employee life cycle, from when people come on board to when they exit the business, compliance, and recruitment as well. So we're going through some of the most recent HR trends, as well as some of the legislative updates. Then we're going to introduce the topic of managing people, and we're going to look at what we call people performance best practice, focusing on 3 key elements of that. Then you're going to have a little exercise to do to self-assess yourself where you're at, and then hopefully some time for questions as well. So HR trends. So everyone has heard all the more recent legislative changes that have come up since the Labour government came on board. There were lots of bits and pieces through here and there. They didn't quite manage to get them all together, so they keep coming. But the most recent one has been named Closing the Loopholes Bill. There may still be holes that they need to be closed, but so far that's the most recent one. So my encouragement to you is that if you haven't reviewed your employment contract and policy, this is a key time to do that, because the changes have been a lot. Mostly, I think what we've heard and we should really think about is the right to disconnect, so a new right for employees that they can exercise, as well as the psychosocial hazards and risk management that has been spoken about quite a bit here at Queensland Leaders as well, so something to keep in mind. And the need for us to be proactive, in particular when it comes to sexual harassment. So there is an obligation to do everything we possibly can to remove sexual harassment from the workplace, but generally anything that is inappropriate behavior in the workplace. What we're expecting in July, as every year, is a wage increase. So there is an announcement every July that concerns the minimum wage increase and the minimum award increase as well. We are guessing it's going to be around the 4% mark, but obviously unions are pushing for higher and small businesses are pushing for something lower, but we'll see what happens. In terms of trends, we have seen a little bit of a shift from what it was the trend end of last year and beginning of this year with the right sizing or downsizing, shifting more towards a removal of poor performers or toxic behavior from the workplace. And that's quite encouraging also because there is now more talent in the market than it used to be. So with COVID, pretty much there was nothing and you had to carry everyone because no one knew what was happening. Now we're seeing more talent being available in the market. So it's a great opportunity to get rid of the dead wood and look outside and who is available and who you can take on board, who is going to be a better fit for your business. And most businesses have changed in the past few years, so it's quite likely that you have people on board that are not quite fitting anymore. Obviously, we continue to see changes from what artificial intelligence is bringing and the changes that bring to structures and roles within our businesses as well. We are quite hopeful about what's coming, and we believe that the pendulum is swinging back towards a more focused employer market as opposed to an employee-centric one. Now, to introduce the people performance topic, I just want to have a little bit of a discussion around people managers. So a lot of people that I know, me included, are what we call accidental people managers. So no one I know has gone to uni to become a people manager or has entered the workforce to manage people. And definitely I'm one of them. So most roles you get taught how to do it. We get taught how to use a computer, how to use a CRM, how to do certain jobs, how to improve. We can go to conferences, we can go to training, but usually you become people manager because you're really good at your job. You're really good technically, but you never really manage people and no one is really telling you. So it's a gift that no one really wants, but it gets given as a promotion. So what we want is to help our people managers to do the job. And a good way to do that is to have HR frameworks in place that give consistency and structure so that there is a guidance there in terms of what people managers needs to do to manage their people and also to sustain the culture. So there is a real difference to what's a surface culture and what's a sustainable culture. So a sustainable culture is made of frameworks and consistency of behavior in how performance is managed and how performance is addressed. Process and consistency are definitely the key, and it's really hard for people managers because they are stuck in between lots of different pressures from the top, from business wanting to grow, more sales, more growth, more work, and the bottom, employees. I want more working from home, I want more benefits, I want more money, and I want to do less work. So it's really, really difficult to be stuck in the middle. So what we're gonna look at is this graphic that is representative of what we say it is best practice people performance management. So in this representation here, you see basically the whole of the employee life cycle, starting from recruitment when someone comes on board to onboarding. So the first few weeks when they become familiar with your business, they become familiar with your processes, they get to meet the team and so forth. And then we specifically gonna talk about the three main areas of the best practice people performance framework. So the first one is probation. So that's the initial few months of someone's employment. And we split them in three key check-ins throughout that period of time and regular one-on-ones. So that's probably, in our experience, the most underutilized framework because people don't really know how to use it. So we're gonna see that in more detail. Then we got performance. So that's the performance review, which we recommend to happen twice a year. And then we see exit. So that's the third, the red bubble. And we're gonna see a few options on how to exit people from your business. So we're now gonna get into more detail in terms of each of these three topics. So to start off with probation, I would like you to get your phone and give me an answer on how long do you think probation is? 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, or you can choose the duration. Very good. Good. You can change your answers. Okay, all right, fantastic. I wish you could choose it, but no, you can't choose it, so definitely that's a no. For most businesses, it is 6 months, and it is for businesses who employ 15 or more staff. For small businesses, so if you employ less than 15 people, you got 12 months. So probation is also called the minimum employment period, and basically the key thing that you need to know about the minimum employment period or probation is that you need to use the time, so the 6 months or the 12 months, to make a decision if that person is a fit for your business or not. And if they're not, that's your best opportunity to move them on with relatively low risk in doing that. In our experience, every time that someone has tried to extend probation, give people another chance, unfortunately, it got worse and more difficult to manage. So it is really important to do that. And also it is important to make the decision because when someone is terminated within probation, they don't have access to unfair dismissal. So they can't go to Fair Work and say, I was unfairly dismissed. However, you need to know that they can have access to what's called a general protection claim. So you need to make sure simply that when you terminate someone within probation, you do it for a reason that is not a protected attribute. So you can't terminate someone because of their race, gender, and so forth, or because they've exercised a workplace right. So the right to disconnect is a workplace right. The taking sick leave is a workplace right. Making a complaint is a workplace right. If they make that kind of claim, it is our responsibility to prove that that was not the case. So the onus of proof is on us. Pro tip, if you get stuck a little bit, sometimes there is a rescue that can come towards you. So any period of unpaid leave doesn't count towards the 6 months or 12 months. And usually when people take leave in the first 6 months or 12 months of employment, it is unpaid leave. So that pushes out the time frame of the probation period. Okay, the next element is performance review. And I'm just asking you, how often do you complete one-on-ones with your team members? Okay, that's good. Quite a few monthly. So ideally, we want one-on-ones to be weekly or fortnightly. I know that everyone is super busy, but it's super important to have as regular as you can one-on-ones with your team members. It's a time that is specifically allocated to them to talk to you about the personal issues, the workflow issues, anything that's going on in the business. So you want to make the time and stick to the time and make it a priority. It's time for them, and the fact that they can rely on that is really important, and it is a big tick box in your psychosocial hazard and risk management as well, having one-on-ones. One-on-ones and performance reviews go together. So throughout the employment of someone, you want to have regular one-on-ones and you want to have biannual performance reviews. So twice a year. And we want these reviews to be formal. So I know that there is a lot about, we talk all the time. Yeah, they can come and see me anytime. My door is open. I have an open door policy, etc., etc. But we want these performance reviews to be formal in the sense that we want people to invest time in preparing. So we want the employee to sit down and prepare, fill in a form, and the same we want the manager to do before there is a conversation. So during that conversation, we want the employee to talk for at least 80% of the time, and we want the manager to listen and understand. So we also want to make sure that these conversations are kept completely separate from remuneration review, because otherwise that will be the catalyst of the conversation and everything else will get lost. Start and finish with a positive is a cliche, but the thing that I add here is to tell the truth. So if the performance is not good, don't tell them that they're good. If they are not performing, don't tell them they're exceeding expectations, because it's going to come back and bite you. And we don't want them to be surprised with anything that we're saying to them in those meetings twice a year. Exit. So I'm asking you, what is the time frame to make an unfair dismissal claim? 31 days, 21, or 6 months? How long do they have if they are dismissed to make a claim against our business? Look, thankfully, it's not 6 months. So you don't need to hang around for that long. It's only 21 days. So after 21 days, you can go back and have, sleep and dreams during the night. You don't need to be awake for any longer than 21 days, unless there are specific circumstances why Fair Work decides to extend the time frame, but I haven't seen it happening in my experience. So ways to exit employees from a business. So performance management. Performance management is made of lots of meetings, lots of paperwork, lots of follow-ups, and lots of hard work, but is an effective method to manage someone up or out. Deed of release, it's a legally binding document where the two parties decide mutually to part ways. And usually there is a payment that needs to be made by the employer to the employee in addition to the minimum legal requirements that you need to pay someone when they leave. But it's a quite difficult conversation to have with someone. It's a without prejudice conversation. It's off the record, but it's a really good and commercial way to remove someone who is no longer working out well for you. Redundancy, it's another option. We need to make sure our business case is strong, obviously, and tick a few boxes. But sometimes we find that it is less confrontational to say to someone, your role is no longer required in the business, then you're not really good at your job. And resignation. Obviously, if they decide to leave on their own accord, that's all good, as long as it's not one of those heat in the moment type resignation. So if someone resigns at 2 a.m. on a Saturday morning, just wait to have a departure party on the Sunday with the family and the remaining employees, because we want to make sure that they've considered the resignation. Action it and be consistent. So ideally, as I said, we want you to be decisive. If the person is no longer suitable for the business, they need to be moved on, because otherwise they will affect the rest of the business. This is a little quick metrics that hopefully will be helpful if you're not quite sure where someone is at. So starting from probation, usually in probation hopefully we've got willing but unable people. Hopefully they're willing and you choose them because of their good attitude, because they're good people and you think they could do the job, but maybe they don't have the right skills quite yet because they come from a different industry, or they come from the same industry, but they're using different systems that they need to learn. So in probation, you've got 6 months or 12 months to figure out if they can make it, if they can learn. If they can't, it means that they are unwilling, because you've given them all the support that you could, so they just don't want to do it. They end up in the exit quadrant, and they should be removed. In the green quadrant, we've got willing and able people that are in your business, are part of it, and we need to ensure we meet with them for the one-on-ones, weekly or fortnightly, and twice a year for the formal performance review. So these people sometimes don't get enough attention, because all our attention is put on the orange and red quadrant type of people. So we still need to listen to them, hear what the aspirations are, career goals, what training, development they're after, what they want to be in the business. The other category that we've got there is the orange one, unwilling but able. They're the most frustrating type of people you can have in your business, because they can do the job and they can probably even do it well, but they just don't want to do it. They choose not to do it. So they don't meet the deadlines, they don't turn up in time, they make silly jokes, they create a bad culture, they just annoying. So you've got two options there. You need to give them the support, the coaching, and the performance management to see whether you can turn them in willing and able. If you can motivate them enough to be willing and able. If not, they move into the unwilling and able category, and they should be removed. And then in the unwilling and unable category, we have people who are not successful in probation, or we need to performance manage because their conduct is not good, the orange people. Or you may have someone there that you inherited from a previous manager. So someone left a nice gift there for you. So once again, make the decision and find a way to let them go. All right, now on your tables, there is an exercise. So it is a self-assessment. So you just need to say yes or no. If you say yes, you get 1 point. And then I'm going to ask you where you're at. Basically, you're assessing yourself on where you're at in managing your people versus what's the best practice that we have seen just now.
So yeah, I was just looking at one-on-ones, and I thought it was with absolutely everyone in the team.
Yes.
So right from the beginning, but it's more so around your managers.
Yes, each manager needs to have one-on-ones with their direct report.
Yes, yeah, we are doing that, yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Really good.
And then the staying interviews, I just want to confirm, is that around if someone's going to resign, you're sitting down and having a staying interview?
That's exit interview.
Oh, exit interview, yes,
That's
yeah.
exit. When if they resign and they're leaving, you do an exit
We
interview,
do,
which
yeah.
is really, really good practice. Staying interview is more with your people who've been there for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. Just have a sit down and get them to tell you why they're staying, what they're enjoying, what can be improved, like more like honest conversation of why they're still with you.
Yes, yeah, we do that every year. And it's amazing the feedback that we get around things that we're doing well and then things that we're not doing well.
Yeah.
And then we can implement strategies around that.
Absolutely. After today, I'm going to apply all those principles and I'll get you to help me out.
Okay, all right. Anyone that was concerning for you or
Not really. I think, like your comment, my door is always available, always open, and
Yeah.
we talk all the time. But just the whole thing about being diligent, recording it, structuring it, that's the thing that's missing, I think.
Yeah.
But what's staying interviews?
staying interviews? So can they hear me if I talk like? Oh. Staying interviews. So as what Jack pointed out, so there is a difference between exit interviews and staying interviews. So exit interviews, we do them when someone resigns and we get their feedback, okay? Why they resigned, what was good in the role, what else they would have done that we didn't give them the opportunity to do. Was their role clear? Was the manager clear? Like lots of questions that we're still gonna use to make better decisions moving forward. But it's with someone who's leaving. Staying interviews is similar, but is with people who are staying. So people you have there for 3, 5+ years, you want to know why they're sticking around and give them an opportunity to give you honest feedback on the things that they enjoy and keep them there, but also things that potentially you could do better to ensure that they stay with you even longer. You can do it internally or you can do it externally, because what we find obviously is that sometimes they don't want to be super transparent with the feedback that they give to someone who they need to work with for the rest, the day, the month, and so forth. Just closing off, a quick summary and recap for you. So there have been lots of changes. So as I said, if you haven't reviewed your employment contract or policies in a while, definitely good time to start thinking about doing it. Probation, really, really important framework, 3 checkpoints and a decision to be made around month 5 or month 11, depending on the size of your business. Performance reviews, keep them consistent, do them more formal rather than casual, tell them the truth and ensure that your managers keep doing the reviews as well as the one-on-ones. Exit people, act quickly and consistently. Don't put your hand in the sand. Usually problems become bigger, worse, more difficult to manage. And just remember, most of us, including myself, are accidental people managers. We need lots of support. We don't need to beat ourselves up because managing people is the most difficult job. So those HR frameworks that I've mentioned will definitely help and support managers to do their job better and more consistently. So thanks, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. And if you want to reach out and have questions that you still want to ask, there is time opportunities to send these questions through, and we will respond to you. Thanks.